Hello and welcome to the shed. In today's video I'm going to be repairing this modern drawer which the drawer front fell off that I talked about in a previous video about planned obsolescence. So we're going to look at trying to repair it. Hope you enjoy. So the first step is I'm going to bring you in here and we can have a look at this drawer to see what was wrong with it. If you didn't see the previous video, I'll leave that link below. And what I'm going to do is first strengthen the particle board this was made out of, and then fix and reinforce the mitre that was on this top edge here. So let me bring it in here and we'll check it out. So I've got some thin CA glue here again, which I'm going to be using. Now the reason I'm using the thin stuff is it's almost like water, so it's going to run in between these particles and really reinforce this particle board here. So we want to add that little bit of extra strength to it, which the CA glue once set will add to it. Now you can do this to a lesser degree with a watered down PVA, but I've found that the light CA glue works best. So let's get ahead and we'll put some in here and we'll try and lock these two sides up, and then we'll move on to the final fixing of this particular drawer front. So you want to make sure that you're not spilling any around here, because this thin stuff is it's really thin. It's like water, so it's going to run real easy. So you just want to take control of it as you're putting it in here and just let it run down into this end grain. Well, as much you can get as end grain with particle board, which is not really technically end grain. So we're just going to let that run right in there. I'll bring you over here in a sec and you can see I'm actually running a lot into that and it's just soaking it up. And I don't know if you can see there, but it's actually running out of the dowel holes here, so I know that it's gone through this top section which I wanted strengthened, where these two dowel holes are. So since that's happened, I'm just going to put a little bit more just above those two dowel holes, make sure it's really run in there. So we can see just here that the colour's changed and it's really just soaked it in. So now I'm going to run the light CE glue in on there and also in on the mitre here on this drawer front. But first we'll do this. Now you've got to be a little more careful here because it's on the mitre. You don't want this glue running everywhere. So you can just put it on a little bit slower just to lock this grain in with it. And anything that does run, just have some paper towel on hand. And just don't get it on yourself, but just mop it up because we don't want it there. Now bear in mind when you're using this CA glue, you do want to be using it in a ventilated space because it can smell quite bad depending on the brand. This one's not too bad, but I do have the shed door open just over there. So now we're just letting that dry. That'll take 30 seconds. I'm going to go ahead with this drawer front, and I need to reinforce this mitre here before I put some screws through into the side, and that's how I'm going to secure it. So what I need to do is take this drawer front off. So we'll start by removing the handle and just undoing these two screws, and then we're going to repeat the same process on this little mitre here with the CA glue. So when I took this top off, I discovered there was just a couple of pin nails, so I just had to lever that off and take them out. We won't be putting them back in, as pin nails really do nothing in particle board. They might briefly hold something, but they provide no strength just because of the nature of the chip board within the particle board. Now we need to repeat that process on the end of this board, which I'll just quickly do now. We don't need a whole lot in this case. And this particular one, I'm just strengthening this very point here. That's what really needs strengthening on this. Further down in the particle board is not so much the issue, that's more the drawer side that we have to worry about. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and reattach the inner part of the drawer front, and then we'll attach the main front of that on top of it after. So obviously we've got the dowels on one side, so we'll just push them straight back in. You can add a bit of glue to them if we want. In this case, there's probably not a whole lot of point. It makes quite a tight joint there, and it's already been re-strengthened by the CA glue. What I'm going to do out on this side is actually just run a little bit of PVA on there when I put that mitre together. So let's jump in and get that done. And the PVA I've found, I've done this once before and it does adhere to that, the CA glue fine. So, going to fix those dowels back in there, which are tighter now that that glue's been in there, which is good. And we're going to push it in here. So we'll squeeze it up with one of these corner clamps and get that held up nice and tight. Hold it on this side first with these clamps. Push it together, then do this other side up, and it pulls it together all nice and tight. So to screw this on, since this is particle board, I'm going to use particle board screws. So they've got a really wide thread on them like this, particle board screws, which allows them to hold onto the chips rather than a tight thread, which holds onto wood better than just these chips. So I'm going to be using these. These are 30mm screws. So I'm going to be pre-drilling in here first before I put them in there. I think I'm only going to put 2 screws in here. It's only a light duty drawer, so to repair it, 2 screws should be more than enough to hold it, I think. So there's a little hairline gap just here, so I'm just going to close that up. The CA glue that ran down into it has made these dowel holes just a little bit tighter. So just want to make sure they're really well seated in there. There we go. So that gap's completely closed up now. Closed up enough that it won't be a problem. So now we're going to head back around to this side and we're going to pre-drill 2 holes in here and then I will countersink them. Now the reason we want to countersink them is when we come and put the drawer front back on, we want that to sit flush over the top. So I'm using a 3mm drill bit, and you need to sort of watch how wide this is when you go to do that, so you don't punch your screw off the edge. You want to make sure that it's actually going straight through into the board behind. We're going to countersink it large enough for the screw hole. So we've countersunk that large enough for the screw head. The 2 screws here is in. So now we've got to go through the process of trying to put this drawer front back on, and that's going to pose more problems than I initially thought because I can't get the drill in there. So I'm going to have to pre-drill some new holes using the handle to hold it. So what I'm going to do is line the screw up here from the handle, through there, through that hole, push that in, allow that to line up straight, and we'll have to put that handle on later. So I'm just going to bring a clamp in here, go over that side where I'm going to use the drill first. And so now we're holding it, we can pre-drill a new hole. Now I'm going to go through the existing hole that was already there. And I obviously can't go any thicker than the screws that were in here. Pre-drill without the clamp this time. And then come back to this side first. Line the screw up. And that's pulled in nice and flush. Although on an angle it is still flush. So we'll quickly run the one on this side in. So I'm still having troubles getting this handle back on. To repair this handle that's been falling off. The hole in there is too big. You could put a larger screw in it, yes. Or, in my case, I'm going to take some baking soda or baking powder. I'm And we drop that in there. Tapping it down, fill it right up. And we'll get some of that CA glue. Put a couple of drops of that in there. So we can see that set, we can actually re-drill the hole that's required for this. Now, as straight as you can, we're going to drill that back out. Now when we go to put it on here, it's tight again, and we can screw it right on and do it up nice and tight. And that's done. So there you have it, folks. You can see with a little bit of know-how and a few different products that you might not have considered using, this drawer is now repaired and able to go back to its duties that it was used for before. Now, yes, it was just from an office drawer, so it's not going to have a lot of weight in it, but this drawer has been repaired and it's going to be nice and strong. The handle won't pull off it anymore, and more importantly, the front should stay attached. So if you like this video and you'd like to see some more videos where I restore various things, please check out the video down here where I restore this beautiful transitional hand plane. And if you'd like to continue to support me, please consider liking and subscribing. It really does help the channel out. And please consider checking me out on Patreon. And as always, I want to put a big thanks out there to my patrons on Patreon for your continued support. Bye for now.